Because it's Brian Mounts with Turpicanic. I'm standing right here on a Bermuda grass lawn in Southern California. It's the latter part of October, and I have been allowing my grass to get a little bit overgrown so that I can identify as many of the weeds in it as possible. This entire channel is dedicated to the evergreen lawns, which tends to be those lawns found in California, parts of Arizona, South Texas, Florida, Hawaii, areas like that. Millions of lawns here in Southern California fall under this category, and Bermuda is a common grass type found in this area. So when we look at a Bermuda grass lawn in California or other areas where lawns don't ever go dormant, identifying the weeds is actually really important on keeping the lawn looking its best. Within the state of California specifically, there's a lot of products that we would buy if we lived in other states, but we cannot buy here because of state restrictions. So figuring out what weeds are there makes it easier for us to hand select the specific herbicides to kill whatever it is that we happen to have in our lawns. Not everybody has every kind of weed, so I'm not going to sit there and tell you that there's one product that's just going to kill them all, because it's just not the case. I tend to have a very nice lawn, but I do have weeds, and I've been letting them grow so that we can see them for the purpose of this video. So let's go take a look, try to identify some of the weeds in Bermuda grass lawns that are common to the area where I live, Southern California. If you're watching this in California, chances are very good that you're going to have some of these same issues. All right. Right out of the gate, this is not Bermuda grass. This is buffalo grass. And if you don't know your grass type, that's very important. I will link to a video about grass type identification in the video description below. Because I have buffalo grass here and Bermuda grass here, I have to treat each lawn space differently. So if you have Bermuda grass, you can't treat it the same way that you would treat a buffalo grass lawn or a Kentucky bluegrass lawn, or my neighbor has mostly a kuyu lawn. Across the street, I have a neighbor over here and a neighbor down the street that have fescue lawns. Every single one of these lawn spaces needs to be treated differently, but weed identification is universal. You can identify the weeds in any of these lawns if you know what you're looking for. So let's dive in. We go to a nice spot first with no weeds. There's nothing here other than Bermuda grass. This is technically what I want over the entire lawn, but it's almost impossible to keep a pure stand over an entire lawn year in and year out, month after month after month. You're always going to have things breaking through. So this right here is what we call nutsedge, and I'm going to grab it way down at the base. When I pull it up like this, it looks like I removed it from the lawn, but I didn't. Nutsedge has, what I didn't pull out of the ground is a long strand which goes another handful of inches deep into the ground, and then it connects to a something that resembles like a little walnut. That's why it's called nutsedge. It's kind of like a bulb plant. It's not a grass. It's not a broadleaf weed. It is in the sedge category. If you look straight down on it, you can see that it kind of comes out in this triangular pattern with leaves coming out in 3 different directions. If I were to slice this in the middle, it will actually have a triangular appearance. You'll also notice that every leaf is extremely shiny, and it has a fairly prominent vein going down the middle, but it actually looks like it's kind of like rippled. It's just got that appearance to it. That is nutsedge. Nutsedge cannot be killed with typical standard herbicides. So if you just go to the store and just buy a general weed killer, it's almost never going to kill nutsedge. You need to use something called sedge hammer or halosulfuron. That's the active ingredient. That is what will kill nutsedge the best. You're not going to find that in the majority of weed killers. So if you have a Bermuda grass lawn, halosulfuron will go down and kill off slowly. It's going to take multiple applications, but it will kill off many of these nutsedge plants. So season after season after season, you're going to have fewer nutsedge. Now, my lawn here has some nutsedge remaining. I've been battling it for a while, but it also has kuyu grass. Now, kuyu grass you're going to find in Southern California and kind of mid-California. The further north you go, the less likely you're going to find this. But it kind of blends in to the nutsedge based on color and height. But as you get down really close to it, you can tell it is very, very different. I'm going to pull this out of the base here. So here you'll see, and I pulled up some of the rhizome underneath. This is a plant that grows down into the ground, and then it branches off, and it has rhizomes underground that go in all different directions. So for instance, this plant could be connected underground to that plant, to this plant, and to this plant. They all could be connected. This is why kuyu grass is so difficult to get rid of in California. You're going to find kuyu grass also in parts of Arizona and Hawaii. You are extremely unlikely to find this in other states like Texas or Gulf states or Florida or anywhere else for that matter. It is a southern hemisphere grass. So if you happen to be watching this video and you live in like South Africa or, you know, the Horn of Africa or Australia, you'll find this grass type. And I use the term grass type loosely. It is a grass, but it is probably the most undesirable grass of them all. If you look at it, this is almost a baby plant, and the stems are extremely thick and stocky, rope-like, and the rhizomes are enormously aggressive. They go all over the place. If we look at this plant, it is lighter in color than the Bermuda grass, grows up taller and ganglier than the Bermuda grass, so it sticks out like a sore thumb. You can find this in other lawns like fescue lawns, and I'll show you that. Now this is a neighbor of mine that has a fescue lawn. It's a fairly new fescue lawn, sodded not that long ago. But just for an example, I want to show you what it looks like when the kuyu starts growing up through the fescue. That right there is kuyu. You can see it's significantly taller than the fescue. This is going to continue invading and spreading all over the place. You got to stay on top of this as fast as possible and as aggressively as possible before the kuyu invades everywhere. There are really special cocktails, like multiple herbicidal applications that you could mix together to apply under the lawn to prevent that from happening. Again, this is something that you're really only going to be seeing in Southern California. Because this plant is small, although it looks big, I have it growing in a pot over there. So let's go take a look at that. This is mature stuff that we can look at up close for better identification. So this is the same stuff. This is kuyu grass. If you look at a kuyu grass, you've got this really thick stem down here, and it goes straight up, and your leaf comes to a super sharp point. Here's another one. Got a nice sharp point. There's no real contour to it. For instance, Kentucky bluegrass will have kind of a boat shape on the tip of it. St. Augustine grass will kind of have more of a rounded point tip. Kuyu grass is very skinny and pointy, and it just grows gangly. So eventually each one of these are these are already doing it underground in the pot. They're putting their rhizomes out underground, so they're spreading side to side, but they also put out stolons on the top of the ground. So that's when your grass grows out over the top like this, or you can go into the grass and you can pull up kind of like a floppy stolon, which is sitting on top of the ground. Kuyu grass is very difficult to kill, and within a Bermuda grass lawn specifically, truly the only way to isolate it and kill it is to either wait until January, when your Bermuda grass is as close to dormant, if not fully dormant, or as close to dormant as possible, and then you hit the kuyu grass with a non-selective herbicide like glufosinate or glyphosate or something else. Kuyu grass is going to stay green and growing throughout the summer much better than Bermuda grass is. It can tolerate lower amounts of sun and lower temperatures than Bermuda grass. So in the month of January, it's much easier to kill out of Bermuda grass without damaging the Bermuda grass. During the regular growing season, it is sensitive to quinclorac. So I do recommend, if you have a Bermuda grass lawn and you don't want to have kikuyu infesting it, you need to have a bottle of quinclorac on hand for the occasional use. So the kikuyu grass that I have growing here in my Bermuda grass lawn will be attacked, and it has been attacked over the past couple years, every now and then, with an application of quinclorac to fight it back. 3 years ago, this lawn was mostly kikuyu grass. I don't say mostly. It was like maybe 55% kikuyu grass, 45% Bermuda. And just by using quinclorac, I brought this down to probably 98% Bermuda, 2% kikuyu. So eventually it's going to be completely fixed or eradicated from the lawn. But you got to get there, and that's where the application comes in. Again, regular herbicides that you go pick up at big box stores, you have to check labels to see if it has quinclorac in it. I recommend buying bottles of the exact ingredient so that you can use it yourself. So, for instance, in this lawn, I've already showed you nutsedge, which needs halosulfuron, and I've showed you kikuyu grass, which needs quinclorac to kill. I don't know a product that combines those two together. You got to mix it together yourself if you want to apply one thing to kill them both. Now let's go into the lawn and see what else we can find. Oh, look at that right there, right in front of me. This right here is burr clover, which is basically the same thing as clover. All the nice clover that some people like to have in their lawn. This is, let's call it the same family, except for this is the ugly stepchild. Nobody wants burr clover because it's not pretty and it creates burrs. Now you could come in here, it's a taproot. It's a taproot weed. You could come in when they're young and just pull them out of the ground, and then it's never going to grow back. But if you look up close, there's already, on this really young plant, there's already some burrs starting to form. Those burrs will, they're itchy, they're abrasive. If you have pets or animals or kids that roll around in the grass, they will irritate, they'll irritate living creatures walking on them, walking and playing on them. I wasn't going to show you this one. I was going to show you the one that I have over here. This is another burr clover. This one is slightly more developed. You can see the burrs a little bit better. If I pull it out. Here we go. Again, this plant, I would still call this plant a baby. These plants can get enormous. I have full videos showing huge burr clover plants. You see those stickies right there? So burr clover, like I said, is a clover. So the best way to kill clover in a lawn, especially a Bermuda grass lawn, is to use quinclorac. So it's the same stuff that we're going to be using to kill off kikuyu grass, or at least knock the kikuyu grass back. Quinclorac will kill clover better than just about anything else. Here's a small little visual of what purslane looks like. Sometimes you're going to find this all over the place, so like almost like a carpet on the ground. If you've got this invading your Bermuda grass lawn, which I don't, this is over here by my buffalo grass. But if you have this on your Bermuda grass lawn, this is best killed with sulfentrazone. However, sulfentrazone can damage the Bermuda grass. So if you are going to spray it, I would use a very light dose and only in the worst of spaces. Once you damage the Bermuda grass, it will recover. You can speed that recovery up by sprigging or plugging from good parts of your lawn. I wouldn't blanket spray an entire Bermuda grass lawn with sulfentrazone if I didn't have to. Also, this sort of stuff, purslane, when it's young, if you can catch it when it's young, it's another taproot plant. So you can just pull it out of the ground and now it's gone. But the more mature it gets, the bigger that root gets, and the harder it becomes to pull out of the ground. So this is really easy to pull out. But if you let it grow for a couple months and let it really mature, you can end up dealing with stalks that are monstrous. They don't come out of the ground nearly as easily, but they do come out of the ground. Here's an example of some even more mature California burr clover. They're starting to get these little yellow flowers on them. And if you go underneath the foliage on top, you'll start finding the burrs further down. The more you let this grow, the more out of control it gets, and it starts forming more of a mat, and it feels way less like a taproot kind of plant. Yeah, I just can't get the root in. Whoa. Now, next to my clover, I've got just a touch of spurge. So spurge is another one of those plants that is a taproot. So if you got a very minimal amount, you can come out and pull the root out, and now it's gone. It's not going to grow back because it's not got like a bunch of root, and this thing is not going to grow and expand. Spurge is not going to be killed with quinclorac, nor is it going to be killed with halosulfuron. This requires 2,4-D to kill it really well. 2,4-D is another product that you can buy as a standalone. It is frequently mixed into herbicide mixtures, so like the 3-way herbicides or the 4-way herbicides, things that are supposed to just be sprayed on the lawn to kill a wide variety of stuff. You're going to find 2,4-D in those. However, many of those mixture products contain other herbicides that are not safe for Bermuda grass. So again, if you've got a Bermuda grass lawn in Southern California or anywhere in California or anywhere for that matter, to kill spurge, if you've got a lot of it, you're going to want to use straight 2,4-D. I don't have hardly any in my lawn. There's this one. This is the only one that I could find before I started filming this video. There might be something somewhere else, but if there is, I'm just going to go and pull it out of the lawn. And I'm going to rely on pre-emergent herbicides to stop any more from germinating in the future. But if you do have a ton of this stuff, 2,4-D is how you do it. Now here on my front lawn, I used to have some clumping fescue that was mixed into the Bermuda grass. I've eradicated it. There's nothing left. However, in my backyard, I don't keep the yard as nice as I do here in the front yard. So there is just a touch of clumping fescue remaining. So let's go to the backyard and I'll show you what clumping fescue looks like in the middle of, well, surrounded by Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass. All right, here we are in my backyard. Yeah, it looks all right. Doesn't look as good as the front yard, but that's just because the dogs play back here, the kids play back here, and I don't want to put as many chemicals down on the lawn back here. So I don't. But let's take a look at the fescue. All right. You got to just work with me on this one. This is not an impressive fescue find, but this is just about the only fescue that I have left in the lawn. This tiny, tiny little patch right here. So right now this fescue is a little bit drought stricken. But as you can see, it is much darker in color than the grass next to it. So right here versus that, it's a darker color. And if you look really close at the fescue, see if I can get my camera to focus on it. You see how it's got like a million little like parallel lines? It's almost like sandpaper, you know, if you're like rubbing your finger across those lines perpendicular to the lines. This clumping fescue, if it was everywhere, like literally everywhere, all bunched up amongst itself, it would all be sticking up and it would be propping itself up, and it would be a nice fescue lawn. The problem here is this is not turf type tall fescue. This is just kind of a weedy clumping fescue grass. And it's not exactly what you want when you've only got little spots sprinkled, dappled through your yard. Now, clumping fescue is not going to be killed by the quinclorac. It's not going to be killed by the halosulfuron. It's not going to be killed by 2,4-D. If you have some of this stuff sprinkled throughout your Bermuda grass lawn, you can literally come with a shovel and dig it up because it's a clumping grass. If you dig up the clump and get rid of it, it's not like it's spreading underground from rhizomes or above ground stolons. It's just gone. And then all of your desirable Bermuda grass or kuyu, I mean, that's kuyu right there. It's all going to spread back into the area and you won't have clumping fescue anymore. But if you got a lot of it, the way to get rid of it is to use sulfurfuron. And you'll get that from a product called Certainty. It's an herbicide that you can buy special for California. Certainty is going to kill off a handful, well, not more than a handful. It's going to kill off a variety of broadleaf weeds, grassy weeds. It's going to kill off clumping fescue. And it's one of the most important garage shed herbicides that I keep because it's kind of a jack of all trades. It's kind of the jack of all trades for Californian Bermuda grass lawns. It's going to kill a lot of, but as we see, it's not going to kill clover very well. It's not going to kill spurge really at all, I don't believe. A handful of other weeds, it's just not going to touch. So it is one of those products that's going to help, but you need all of the individuals to get rid of the individual weeds that require special, you know what I mean? Kind of need to have a little bit of all of this, but only if you can identify these weeds in your lawn. Now, last thing that I want to show you is more mature kikuyu grass mixed in to Bermuda grass. So out in my front yard, I've got little tiny tufts of kikuyu grass that are kind of starting to spot through the Bermuda grass lawn. But back here in the backyard where I don't spray hardly any chemicals back here, you can see it very, very well. And you can see how ugly it can get. All right, as we move this way, we're seeing mostly kikuyu grass. So all of this is kikuyu grass. And this is what I'm talking about when I say it'll pull up as like ropes. I mean, look at this. This is like just a spongy mat of ropes. And I mean, it's just all over. But anyway, as we move this way, now we're getting into, this is Bermuda grass. Now we're in the shade, but you can clearly tell that the Bermuda grass is very different from the kikuyu that I just showed you. But when they mix together, it looks really gross. You've got kikuyu grass stolons, these runners. Let me zoom out. That can move really far. So this is in the ground there, and it just goes this way. And as it goes out into the Bermuda, it's just gross. They don't mix together well. Look at this. So, when you don't know a whole lot about grass, and you come down and you're like, what on earth is this ridiculous weed growing in my Bermuda grass? It's not a weed. I mean, it kind of is. It's a grass. It's an unwanted grass. This is kikuyu grass. So this is what you would do. Like if I wanted to make my Bermuda grass back here more pure and get less and less of this kikuyu, this is where you go and you start spraying quinclorac on it. You're going to be doing a series of it over the course of the year, and then eventually it's going to get less and less and less. And eventually, multiple seasons later, it will be pretty much gone. But you'll pretty much always fight it here in California. It's just wild stuff. All right, now to finish this video off, I was going to go show some of the other lawn spaces that I have and start identifying the other grasses that are in it that you might want to get rid of. Say, for instance, you have a fescue lawn and you're starting to see Bermuda grass or kikuyu show up. There are different ways to deal with that. But because this video is getting long, and because this video is it's geared for people with Bermuda grass lawns, mostly in California, I'm going to save that content for another video. But I do have videos about Bermuda grass care and California lawn care, off-season California lawn care, like during the winter. I'm going to link to a lot of those down in the description below and here on the screen. So please take a look at any of this stuff and leave your questions down in the comments box below. This is my job, to help you out with your lawns. I hope you'll trust me to help you get the best lawn you possibly can.